This program contains violent content which may be too intense for some. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, everyone. How are you? We are back and ready to go. Let me bring Andrea on. Andrea, are you there?
I'm here.
All righty. Well, last night we were going through these documents, and there's definitely a lot more for Kyle Neff than there was Andrew Bush. Hey, Carly, how are you? I see others that are watching, just not chatting, so welcome. Welcome, welcome. We had a little bit of a break here, but we are back, and we are going to be reading the documents from Kyle Neff tonight, tomorrow night, and then Friday night. I had to remember what today was. I'm losing track of my days. So, oh no, you're stuck in bed with a cold? Well, we hope you feel better, Carly. That's for sure. So, if you haven't watched the previous episodes, please go back into the playlist and watch the previous episodes. Catch yourself up. Tonight is going to be a longer night. We're going to go for 2 hours as we have a lot of documents to get through. And before we start, I am just going to check the True Crime with Marv Facebook page. Make sure that that is going, which it is. Hello, Michelle. Thank you for joining us on Facebook. Hey, Donna, how are you?
There was quite a few people that joined the True Crime with Marv page today.
Oh, yeah?
Uh-huh.
Well, thank you for everyone who joined the Facebook group. And for all of you that are joining the Justice for Tabitha page, Facebook group, that group has exploded in the last month.
Yep.
We went from a little over 200 members to over 600. So we're happy that group is growing. Oh, thank you, Donna. She says, I'm well. Happy belated anniversary. Thank you so much. All right. As you know, a week ago, we finished up with Andrew Bush's documents, and we're jumping in to Kyle Neff's tonight. And there's a lot of them, so it's going to take a bit to get through these. So we are actually going to be doing 2-hour lives, so we can try to get through these as soon as possible, because there's a lot more to go. So, Andrea, we are reading the transcript for Kyle Neff, case 02103616,
Yes.
dated August 14th, 2003.
Correct.
So, as you can tell by that date, everyone, this is almost a year later that Kyle is doing a statement. And in this statement is Kyle Neff, Detective Gary Stout, Detective Tony Frawley, and Stephanie Duran. Now, Andrea is going to read the parts of all the detectives and the attorneys, and except for in the beginning. You just do GS, Andrea, and then I'll do the other parts.
Okay.
And then once we get... Well, I'm going to have you do GS and TF.
Okay.
And then I'll do the other parts, and then Kyle.
Okay.
So we're going to read about 4 to 6 pages, and then we'll stop, talk about them, answer any questions you might have, and then keep going. So if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. All right, I got my soda. We're good to go, Andrea. We can start.
Alrighty. What we're going to do this time, I'm going to let Tony go through the questions in part because
Sure.
I am drained. So we might remind the people that Gary Stout had brain cancer at this time.
Yeah.
That's why he was saying he's drained.
Right. Sure.
I got my list here and I'll check them off as we go too.
Sure.
And I'm going to let him ask Kyle the questions. Are you sure they're ready? This is going to be video. From now on, it's going to be videotaped.
Sure.
Sure. Kyle, what I'll have you do now, first of all, this is a videotape statement of Kyle Neff. Today's date is August the 14th of 2003. The time is approximately 4:05 p.m. This is being taped at the Tipton Police Department. Present is Kyle Neff, his attorney Stephanie Duran, Detective Gary Stout, Tipton County Sheriff's Department, and myself, Detective Tony Frawley with the State Police. Prior to us talking to you originally at approximately 2:37 p.m., Kyle, we advised you had Miranda rights. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
You stated you understood those rights.
Yes.
In fact, there was kind of a stipulation between us and Stephanie that you didn't need to sign those. However, she signed those acknowledging the fact that we did read those to you.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And what we did is basically talk to you and got your story as to how the homicide of Tabitha Raines took place. Is that correct?
Yes.
We also told you that we had numerous questions we had to ask you, and what I would like for you to do prior to asking you those questions is I want you to know that we're on videotape to go through that story one more time. We're not going to interrupt. We're going to let you tell the story. You've given it to us once, okay? And then we're going to let you do it again in your own words without interrupting.
Do you want me to go from where I was?
I want you to go from the same thing you did for us.
Okay.
Once we get done with that, we have numerous questions to ask you. And then we need some clarification on some other things that Mr. Rich would like to have.
Okay.
Okay? So at this point, we want you to start on Wednesday, October the 2nd, like you did with us before, and go into the homicide of Tabitha Raines occurred and whatever else took place on that evening.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, I woke up that day and Amanda told me she needed to go to the hospital to see her grandma. She went with her dad, so she left to go to her dad's house to meet her dad to go to the hospital to see her grandma, and I went to work. I didn't know whether I went at 8 or 10. I'm pretty sure it was 8, and I worked all day till about 2:33. And then I got off work and helped Bill Sherwood put the parking curbs out at the restaurant, the ones that are broken. Asked him if he needed or if he wanted to go ride bikes. He said he was going out to dinner or doing something that night. I don't know exactly what. So I went ahead and rode by myself. Went to my buddy Dan Kokendorfer's house here in town. It's his and his girlfriend's house, and smoked a joint with him and inaudible. And his girlfriend came home sometime past like 3:30, and I had to go do something like grocery shop or something, and I asked if I could leave my helmet there, and he had me put it in the laundry room in case I needed it before he got home. I went riding, and either before or after, I picked up my helmet from there. I went by Mandy Amon's house and talked to her and seen what she was doing. And she was going to pick up Robbie and wanted to know if I'd get some alcohol for her. And I told her I'd call her at home later. I probably would, and that was all we really talked about. And I either went back and picked up my helmet then, or I already had it. I don't remember. But after that, I went to Tabby's house, and I'm guessing it was around 5:30ish, give or take some time. And we bullshitted and talked, and I called Adam Johnson, and asked him about some coke, and he said he called me back. He called me back and told me to meet him about 20 minutes out at Bargain Bob's, and I went out there and met him, and then I went out in the country and snorted some of it to try it out. Actually, a lot of it. And then cruised around for a little bit and came back in town and saw Liz and pulled her over because Tabby mentioned she was looking for Liz.
Now, when you say Liz, you need to tell us a last name.
Elizabeth Balser. And I pulled her over on that one-way street. She stopped at that one-way street by the utility company. When I saw her, she was at Main and Jefferson. Turned right, and we talked. I told her Tabby was looking for her, and she mentioned something about wanting to kick her because she stole coke from her and wanted me to help her. And at first I told her, no, I won't help you because I don't want to. And then she offered to give me some coke to help her, and I agreed to it. And so I went up to go find Tabby. That was about 8:30ish or so. I went to go find Tabby by her house. She asked me to find Tabby and have her meet us out at the park. And I drove by her house, her lights were off. And while I was coming back in town, I saw her up at the sidewalk around VP and the post office, and pulled over and talked to her and told her to meet us out at the park in about a half an hour, and that's around 9ish, 9:30 somewhere. I don't know the exact time. She said all right, and so I went to go look for Liz again, and I saw Liz over by Madison and Main Street, right by that stoplight at Madison and Main Street, and pulled up beside her and told her I got a hold of Tabby and for her to meet us out at the park here in about a half an hour. And
What was Elizabeth driving?
a car.
Describe that car.
It's like a reddish orange color, and it's a bigger car, bigger than my Honda was.
Newer or older car?
Older. And it wasn't in the best condition either. She had me follow her. I followed her out to the high school parking lot, and we sat there and rolled a joint, and then we went over to the park. We parked over by the shuffleboard courts. Sorry about that. By the shuffleboard courts, and got out of the car, and she said we needed to go meet John.
Whose car did you drive into the park?
Liz's.
And who drove?
Elizabeth Liz Bolzer.
Okay.
And so we walked back by the creek and lit up a joint. And then we started walking over by the little footbridge, the wooden one with the post up in the middle of it. I can show you where it's at. And John was underneath of it on a concrete slab. And Liz hollered for him to come up there. And then he walked over to the park, the little circle road. And Liz hollered for Tabby to come over. And Tabby and Drew Bush came walking over there.
Where were they?
They were at the pavilion.
Did you see them prior to this?
Yes, I saw them when I came in the park. I saw Tabby.
Did you ever see Bush before that?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Then I hollered for her to come over there, and she came. Or Liz hollered, and she came, and he came with her. And I seen why Liz was wanting me to watch her back while she fights Tabby. Because Drew's bigger than her, and it wouldn't be a fair fight. And we started walking back towards the creek. And Liz started yelling at Tabby, cussing at her, and...
Do you remember the words that she was saying?
She asked where her Coke was. Where was her shit? And was something of that nature. And Tabby told her she didn't know what she was talking about. She didn't take nothing from her. And so Liz started hitting Tabby.
What was she hitting her with?
I saw her fist, hitting her with her fist.
How many times?
I saw more than once. I don't know exactly how many times, to be honest with you. Drew went to step in, and me and John Yates grabbed his arm and pulled him back. Or put her arm around his arm and pulled him back, or something of that nature. I don't remember exactly how we did it. And told him he needs to stay out of this. And Liz turns to us, looks at Drew, and has a gun sort of down, not pointing straight at him, but towards him, saying, "Stay the F out of that." And that was the first time I saw the gun. And then she turns back to Tabby, and then we hear gunfire.
Okay. How close, when you heard that gunfire, how close was Tabitha Raines to Elizabeth Bolzer when that gun discharged?
I'm guessing 2 or 3 feet around there.
Closer than you are right now to your attorney?
About this far.
About the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we were about us apart,
Okay.
approximately.
So this is the distance you were. Okay.
And I heard more than one gunfire. I don't know whether I heard 2 or 3. Sort of amazed at that point. And then Liz turns around towards us with the gun, sort of. It's down kind of like she was amazed she did it. And Drew took off running.
Prior to him taking off running, I think earlier, didn't you describe that weapon to us?
Yes.
Describe it to us now.
It was a silver revolver, has a center part, not a clip, where the bullets are in, and it was a little bit bigger than my hand, maybe about the same size.
What color was the grip? Do you know what I'm talking about? The part you hold?
I didn't see the color of the grip.
Okay, let me clarify something before you go any further. You told us earlier that after striking Tabby and knocking her down, Elizabeth turned and made a threat to
Drew. Yes.
For clarification, did you see the gun pointed at him or towards him?
Towards him, yes.
Do you know how? Can you show me how she was pointing the gun?
It was sort of down, but towards him, about like that.
In other words, it was not at his head, but maybe at the lower part of his body. Would that be possible?
Right. Yes.
Okay.
Inaudible.
Okay. And where was it? Oh, that was you.
Where was I?
You just now started to talk about Drew Bush taking off running.
Okay. Drew took off running, and Liz went to go chase him and told us to come on to help her get him. And we were like, no, he was too messed up. He won't remember anything.
Now, when you talk about how messed up, you said earlier prior to this interview being taped, that you didn't really know Drew Bush.
Right.
How do you know that he was that messed up?
Because he was wobbling, just standing there, and I could smell alcohol real strong.
And you've seen him drunk before?
Yeah, I've seen him drunk.
Was he highly intoxicated?
Yeah, I'm surprised he remembered it, to be honest. I don't see how he remembered anything.
How intoxicated were you?
I was high on coke and pot. I was messed up, yeah, but I don't.
Do you remember everything that took place?
Pretty much, yeah. I don't remember every word or.
What about John? What about John Yates? How messed up was John Yates?
He seemed high. I don't know how high he was, because he was walking and talking fine.
Do you think he knew what took place and what all was going on during that? Inaudible.
I don't think so, but yeah, I think so. But some people can control their buzz better than others.
So she took off running after. When she took off running after Drew Bush, did she state earlier prior to the tape being turned on that her intentions was to take him out at that time?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
That's what I took her intentions as. Like, come on, let's get him. Because she didn't want no witness, is the way I took it. And we told her that he was too messed up not to worry about it. And she...
Let him go?
Yeah.
And go ahead with your statement then.
And then she asked us to help carry the body where we put it. And at first, me and John were like, no, we don't want to be. We don't want to. And then she pulled out her gun and said, do you want to be in the same place as her?
Did she point that gun at you?
She didn't really point it. She showed it to us. Do you want to be in the same place as her? And we're like, all right, we'll help. And she put the gun back, and me and John grabbed a leg, and she grabbed the upper body. We started carrying it over to Inaudible corner on the creek bend, and the bend in the creek where the drainage tile is behind the hospital.
Now, for clarification, in what you are saying is from the point that you picked up the body, you walked what would be basically west along the creek bank as it runs behind the swimming pool.
Yeah, south and west. Yes.
Along the creek bank, never crossed the road that drives through the park.
No, we did not.
You went past the shuffleboard court.
Yes.
Did you cross the shuffleboard court?
No, we did not.
Okay, so how did you walk? And then through the gravel right there? You might have had to. Why don't you show us? Do you recall, before you take us out there, exactly what your path was when you got to the shuffleboard?
Not exactly. No, I do not.
Okay, as you pass it, you walked along the creek behind the ball diamond.
Yes, to the bend in the creek. And we sat the body down right by the concrete slab. And John started walking back. And Liz told him, hey, hold on. And he said he's done enough. He can't do any more. And Liz, like, F him and started taking off her clothes. And I left and gone for her stuff.
So now, where was she located when you were taking her clothes off at? At the shuffleboard area?
No, she was located at the bend in the creek.
And that's where you tossed, where she showed up at?
Yeah.
Okay.
And she started, I thought she was a pervert when she was taking off her clothes. I didn't know what was going on there. And I asked her, what are you doing? And she said, do you want to get busted? And I was like, no. And she was like, then trust me. So I let her do what she was doing. And she asked me to help her carry the body down to the water. And we did.
Now, when you say we is who?
Me and Liz.
John Yates did not help carry the body down to the water?
No, he didn't.
Where was he while the body was being carried down to the water? Do you recall?
He was walking back to his truck, I'm guessing, or his bike, or whatever he was on.
Did you see him arrive at the park?
No, I didn't. He was already there.
What makes you think that he was in a vehicle?
Because he drives the truck.
Did you already see it in the park?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I'm guessing he parked on the road outside the park.
But you don't know that, though.
No, right. I don't know that for a fact.
Take it back there from, you put the body in the creek.
And then we went back. Me and Liz went back to her car so I could get my key and helmet to my motorcycle. And she took me to my motorcycle and drove to my mom's. Called Amanda to see if she was home, and she was, so I said I'll be home in a minute.
And approximately what time did this homicide take place?
Approximately 10:30ish, around there.
Could have been later?
Could have been later, yes.
What time did you arrive at home?
Around 11:15, 11:20.
Okay,
Because I went home pretty quick.
when you left, when Elizabeth Balser and you left the park after you had dumped the body,
Uh-huh.
you had to go back to her car and it was still parked next to the
Yes.
pavilion? I mean, next to the
Shuffleboard.
shuffleboard area.
Yes, it is.
Did the two of you leave in it together?
Yes.
Yates left on foot?
Yes, he was already gone when we got back to the car.
And Drew had been gone for quite some time.
Yes.
She drives straight over. Did you exit the way you were supposed to go out of the park?
Yeah, we did.
Go straight to your motorcycle?
Yes.
And then what roads did you travel to your house from the park?
I went to my mom's house down the road beside the park.
Okay, when you went down that road by the park, okay,
Uh-huh.
you stated to us prior to the statement that there's some merchandise that was never recovered that belongs to Tabitha. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Well, what were those items?
It was the pants, belt, her purse is all I remember.
And whose possession did they end up in?
Mine.
Right then and there, after Elizabeth removed them?
When we went back to the parking lot.
At the school.
All right, we're going to time out.
Okay.
We've gone 13 pages. I didn't realize
I
it was
know.
13 pages. Okay. So that statement is from Kyle's version. So in his statement in the beginning, it said that he was at Tabby's house at 5:30 before he met Adam Johnson to buy Coke. And we know that's true due to a phone call that was made there. Right?
Yes, from Tabby's apartment.
Yep. Okay.
Actually, I think the phone call was made at 5:42 or something like that.
Right. Now, he says he left and went and met Adam Johnson, bought his Coke. Have a good night, Heather. Bought his Coke, went and saw a couple friends, and then where was it from there?
That's when he drove through town and saw Liz, and she said she wanted to meet up with Tabby. And then he found Tabby, and then he went back and talked to Liz, and then they went to then that's when they hooked up.
Actually, Kyle's story is that Tabby wanted to talk to Liz.
Right. Said she wanted to party.
So, everything we've always heard is that Liz wanted Tabby to come to the park. But he's saying Tabby was looking for Liz initially. And this is the first time we've heard of Tabby and Liz actually fighting before any gunshots. Now, he doesn't go into detail as to how they were fighting, where she was punching her, things like that. But he said that they did get into a fight.
Right, because Drew said that she just pistol whipped her one time.
Right. Right. All right. So he goes and he meets up with Liz. Liz says, let's meet at the park. He goes and finds Tabby. Tells her, meet us in the park in about a half an hour, which he figures was between 9 and 9:30. But he says he doesn't know exactly what time it was.
Right.
Now, the car that he's describing, this older orange, reddish orange color, and it's a bigger car, that was Liz's car, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And he says Liz was definitely driving because he got in the car with her and went to the park with her in her car.
Right.
So he says, I saw her fist, hitting her with her fist. How many times? I saw more than once. Now, he talks about he heard more than one gunshot. He says, at this time, I don't know whether I heard 2 or 3. And then he describes the gun, but he doesn't know what color the handle was.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
Yeah, especially since it's his mother's gun.
His mom's. Right.
And he's the one that initially went and got it to give to Liz.
But in this statement right here, he doesn't say he went and got the gun.
No, it does. No, it doesn't.
So that changed.
Yep. And originally, he told her no, that he wasn't going to help her until she said that, I'll give you some Coke if you help me.
Right.
And when it comes to Andrew Bush, Kyle says, I'm surprised he remembered it, to be honest. I don't see how he remembered anything, meaning that's how messed up he was.
And Andrew admitted he was 99% unconscious.
Right.
He was zombified.
Yes, zombified. That was his words. So then they talk about where they put her down, and he says John Yates leaves right away. So at this point, John Yates wouldn't have known what happened to Tabby.
And that didn't change. That hasn't changed.
Right.
But it's the first we've heard of a vehicle of how John Yates got there.
Right. Well, he says his truck or his motorcycle.
Right, and it was parked along the road outside of the park, which would be South Street that runs just to the north of the swimming pool.
Okay. Which is why he would have been underneath the footbridge.
Exactly. He could have parked over by... There's a shuffleboard court next to the volleyball and basketball courts now. Well,
Yeah.
The shuffleboard court's always been there. But there used to be a little pavilion, or, well, I say pavilion, but it was like a shelter house.
Yeah.
There to the east side of the swimming pool. They've taken it down now. But there used to be a little pavilion area over there as well. And there's parking there.
Okay.
And that's just directly in the area of the footbridge.
Now, Mark is saying there's actually 2 bends in the river, or in the creek. Which is right. So off the footbridge, if you went down a little bit, there would have been a bend going to the left. Correct?
Facing which way?
The bend would have been to the left going towards the hospital.
If you were facing the footbridge?
Yes. Well, if you're walking along the creek where the footbridge is,
Right.
you haven't gone over it to go to the pool.
Right.
So that is on your right-hand side. So you walk straight a little bit, and it turns to the left.
Yes.
And it goes for quite a while until you get back behind the baseball diamonds and over by the hospital, and then bends again.
Yes. It bends back and goes back behind Miller's. Well, what used to be Miller's Mary Manor.
Right.
And goes back to the west.
Right. So the one that they're talking about putting her at is the further bend by the hospital. Right?
That would be if they put her at that farthest bend, then that's back by the water tower.
Right. Okay, let's... Because he says, yes, to the bend in the creek, and we sat the body down right by the concrete slab. And John started walking back, and Liz told us, okay. Okay, so Tony Frelly's question was, as you passed it, you walked along the creek behind the baseball diamond. He says, yes, to the bend in the creek, and we sat the body down right by the concrete slab, and John started walking back. So that would have been the second bend, the one past the water tower.
Now, there's a little, okay, so I wouldn't call it a bend, but they may have called it a bend, like right behind where the bathrooms are.
Yeah.
There's that, and it kind of curves. It's more of a curve than a bend. I mean, It's just like a little jog.
Right.
So maybe that's where they're talking about, because that's technically not behind the baseball field, but it's next to the baseball field.
Because he says, yes, to the bend in the creek, and we sat the body down. So now, where was she located when you were taking her clothes off? At the shuffleboard area? And he says, no, she was located at the bend in the creek. And that's where you tossed her? Where she showed up at? And he said, yeah.
That ain't right then. Because if he's talking truly about the bend, that's just a little further past the water tower.
Right.
And she showed up, 200 feet down? Back towards the bathrooms.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
I would love to see the video of them walking through the park. It would make a lot more sense. Okay, so let's see here. Mark says they would have had to put her in the water behind the hospital. According to this deposition, she was put in the water by the bend close to the spot. But where she was in the water, that isn't possible.
Right, because there was no bend there.
Right. Right. The first bend is close to the footbridge. That's what I'm saying. There's no way they put her there. The next bend would have been down by the hospital.
Right. The bend that he's talking about that's close to the bridge was actually just to the west of the concrete bridge.
Mm-hmm. The water flows north.
Right.
Gloria says there's no way. Yeah. Okay. All right, let's read a little bit more. The slab, which is close to the first bend.
Yeah, the concrete slab is behind the bathrooms.
That's what I thought.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that her body, I don't think they would have put her there on the second and it would have stayed there till the 5th. She would have moved somewhat. I know that there was rocks and everything, but
Yeah,
I
she
don't.
would have had to have
Right.
floated
That's why it
down
doesn't
to
make
where she
sense
was
to be
found.
saying they put her there.
Mm-mm.
Because she's not going to lay there for 3 days and not move in a creek.
Well, we know that she was there the 4th and didn't move when they actually called her in on the 5th.
Right.
So I guess 2 days. I mean, from the 2nd to the 4th, she could have got to where she was.
Right. Okay. We'll get more clarification. There's no more depositions. Hang on 1 second.
Right, Mark. We're just reading what he originally said first, and then we'll point out the changes in his next deposition. Because Mark said in his other deposition, he said that they walked her down to behind the ball diamond.
Right. I bet you it's in my external file that I'm looking for. Okay. Okay. Right. We agree, Mark. Okay. So let's go back to reading. So Gary Stout says, right then and there after Elizabeth removed them. Kyle Neff said when we went back to the parking lot.
Right. And then I said at the school.
Okay. And then Kyle answers yes.
And why were you the person that was supposed to take clothing?
Liz wanted me to burn them in my fireplace.
And did you agree to do that?
Yes.
Where did you place these items on your motorcycle?
In between me and the gas tank. Because I drove a crotch rocket. I just hold them down on it.
If I told you that Detective Frawley and I, in fact, that we didn't recover, but that there was a letter that was recovered that was Tabitha Raines's, and it was found on South Street.
Where's South Street?
Right in front of the swimming pool.
Okay.
Now, wait a minute. You can't tell me he didn't know where South Street was when his mom lived 1 block north of it.
Right.
Okay. Would that have been the direction you would have been traveling?
Yes.
There was an invitation, Stephanie, there was an invitation to a baby shower or something, and RSVP. Was you going through the purse for any reason, Kyle?
Liz did. Elizabeth did.
But at that, where did she go through it at?
At the park.
So that would have been prior to you taking the purse with you, though, right?
Right.
And she was going through the purse for what purpose?
I was guessing to look for her coke.
Look for the cocaine, correct? Okay.
And I went to my mom's house, and then after I left there, I called Amanda to see if she was home. After I left there, I went out to 28, and 28 was closed down at that time, so I had to take the detour around it.
To go in front of Pioneer?
Yes.
Is that the way you're talking?
Yes, went down that road, turned left, turned right on 28 again, pulled my bike into the shed, put the clothes in a Tupperware thing in my shed.
And is that where they're still at right now, as far as you know?
Sorry.
Bless you.
Ugh. As far as I know, my mom's cleaned the shed, so she might have took my stuff to my house, that greenhouse right behind the shed.
But
She doesn't.
she doesn't know what's in there? She wouldn't have looked?
No.
Had she have looked, she probably would have asked.
Yeah.
Would that have been possible?
Yeah, she would probably ask Stephanie about it.
During, excuse me.
You also put. Oh, go ahead.
I thought you were reading Stephanie.
So it says you also put your, and Kyle says, yes, I did. Go ahead and read, SD.
Okay. Your clothes as well in that.
Yes, I did.
That Rubbermaid container.
Yes.
And this is Tony Frawley. And what did you have on?
I had on orange Cheryl's shirt and a pair of blue jeans.
And that's the clothes should still be with Tabitha's?
Yes.
Okay. Was there ever mention by any of one of the three of ya of burning everyone's clothing?
No, she just mentioned to burn Tabby's, and I figured I was going to do the same thing with mine.
But nobody mentioned we got to get rid of this stuff in case there's blood on us or anything like that. During that altercation, when the fight was going on, and you said there was some fist throws, did Tabby ever land any blows?
No, she didn't fight back.
She never fought back at all. Just kept denying?
Yes.
That she had stolen the cocaine?
Yes.
Do you remember what clothes Jonathan Yates had on? Do you recall?
No.
What about Elizabeth Balser?
I remember her having on a pair of jeans and a shirt. I think it was a white shirt.
And a pair of blue jeans?
Yes.
But you do not recall Jonathan Yates's clothing?
No, I don't.
What about Elizabeth Balser's shoes? Do you recall?
No, I didn't really look at her feet.
Okay. I think you did say, though, that you knew for a fact that Tabby was wearing a thicker type of shoe. Is that correct?
Yes, sandals.
Sandals. What color?
I think they were black.
I think you referred to them earlier as flip-flops.
Yeah, flip-flops.
They wouldn't have like a strap on the back.
No, they're the kind that come up between your toes and around there.
Okay. Why and whose idea was this to dump Tabby's body in the creek in the city park rather than...
It was Liz's.
Why?
Why? Because she figured if we hid it up there with all the trees...
But wouldn't it have been... Didn't she think that it would be safer to haul the body away from the park?
I don't know. Yeah, I do. But at that time, I didn't really want to...
Was she just calling all the shots?
Yes. Yes.
Kyle Neff, did you actually fear for your life when she pointed the weapon at you and said, "Do you want to be next?"
Yes, and I still feel fear for my kid's life and my wife's.
When you guys took the body, you say to the cement slab, "Okay, down the creek bank." The cement slab, did you actually put
Hang on. No, it was actually up on the creek bank.
Okay, did you actually put the body in the water?
Yes.
Did you throw it? How did it actually get into the water?
We took it down there.
You actually got in the water.
Yes.
Both of you?
Yes.
So your clothes got wet.
Yes.
And Elizabeth's got wet. Elizabeth Balser's clothes got wet.
Yes, they did.
Was there any shots fired in that water
I don't remember.
from that weapon?
I don't think so.
No?
I don't remember.
All the shooting took place in front of the park.
Yes.
And for clarification, before we get into all these questions, once she fired the shots, and you stated earlier 2 or 3 shots, you weren't sure, where did she place that gun?
In her pants, right there.
Okay, was that still in her pants, to your knowledge, when she exited her car at the high school parking lot?
Yes, it was.
Did she ever have it out again from the time of the shooting until you got out of her car? Did you ever see her handle that gun again?
Uh-uh.
Was there ever made mention by anyone after the shooting and days after as to how or any possible way of getting rid of that weapon?
I don't. How could you get rid of a weapon?
Nobody has said anything to you where that weapon may be today.
No.
And do you have, and the reason this has to be on tape, we've asked you this off the tape. We know you bought the cocaine.
Yes.
And you bought that from who?
I bought that from
Adam Johnson?
Adam Johnson. Yeah, that guy.
All right. Did Adam Johnson sell you a handgun?
No, he didn't.
Did Adam Johnson trade you a handgun for dope?
No, he didn't.
Did Adam Johnson sell Elizabeth Balser that handgun?
I don't know.
Did you ever see Adam Johnson own a handgun like that?
No.
Have you ever seen anyone own a gun
Derek Branham.
like that?
Derek Branham.
And when did you see that gun?
A while ago.
Well,
When I asked him about buying a gun for a girl in Indy.
okay. So didn't you tell me?
Me and Nick Hall both saw it.
So you and Nick Hall were where?
We were at my house.
Kyle, this is something. Stephanie, this is something that wasn't mentioned the first go around, and I told you there would be some things that I would,
Sure.
and I wanted to find out his credibility.
Uh-huh.
So now let's go to the weapon thing, and we know more about that weapon, Kyle, and so make sure you don't get tagged up on that.
Okay. Okay, let's hit pause here.
Okay.
What does he mean? Make sure you don't get tagged up on that. Hi, Mark.
Probably.
Good evening.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Tagged up on it probably means don't get hung up on it, like don't give yourself up on it or something.
So,
Yeah, it's probably something that wasn't supposed to be in the record
oh,
from saying something like that to him. We know that they were well coached
so
before they got to speak to Stephanie Duran and Bob Alden.
They're asking
That's
him.
out of
So what has me baffled is they're asking him questions about this gun, right? And they said, and you bought that from who? And okay, so they're talking about the coke from Adam Johnson. Okay, we knew that. Did Adam Johnson sell Elizabeth Balser that handgun? And he says, I don't know. Why would he say, I don't know, when he knows that that's his mother's handgun?
because throughout the whole situation, they couldn't keep their story straight. They always got caught up in their lies and their manipulative ways, trying to remember what they said from one deposition to the next.
Okay, but this is the first statement that he's making to police. So, it hasn't come out yet that this is his mother's gun.
Yeah, he admitted.
Saying.
He admitted to Gary Stout. You know, we was working with Gary Stout quite a bit, especially Buffy, and Gary caught him in his lies many times and his crazy ways of talking, and
right.
He admitted to lying in his first statements.
Okay.
When they did the plea bargain, he admitted to lying in his statements.
Because it says, have you ever seen anyone own a gun? And he first goes to Derek Branham. My first thing would have been my mom. If that's,
right.
Go ahead, Andrea. What were you going to say?
He had to admit to his lies, though, to get the plea bargain.
Right.
Right.
Okay, so we've got Gloria says, think about who the gun went back to, his mom. Therefore, he would be indicating himself. Very true. So he denied knowingly knowing who the gun belonged to.
Or did
so
he?
Then he says, he's talking about this Derek Branham and the gun that he had a while ago. When I asked him about buying a gun for a girl in Indy. Now, who's this girl in Indy that he's talking about?
The other Tabitha.
The other Tabitha, the drug dealer from Indy.
Right.
Okay.
Sure. So the new information that came forward to us in 2009, the girl that came forward with this information is talking on behalf of her friend, who was Shane Jackson's sister. So that's where the information that this is the first I remember. I guess I didn't read everything or don't remember, I've got some memory blockage from my electrical accident that I had years ago. But anyway, I don't remember Kyle talking about Derek Branham. What I remember is this girl came forward in 2009 talking about Derek Branham. Kyle was trying to buy a gun from Derek Branham. And there was no mention of, buying it for a girl in Indy.
Well, it says it right here.
That would be why there's that would be why there's a deposition by Aaron Sharp, who Derek Branham lived with.
Right.
Right. But of course, we confronted Frank Fitch, the then sheriff of Tipton County, and he assured us that things would be looked into and this girl would be gotten a hold of, and it never happened.
Gloria says, is that the guy they call Pisshead?
I don't know.
I wouldn't know their names. I wouldn't know their nicknames. Except for Turd.
Except for Turd, right. So it says...
How can you remember that? Forget that one.
When I asked him about buying a gun for a girl in Indy, that was from That was about Derek Ranum. And Gia says, okay, so didn't you tell me? And Kyle says, me and Nick Hall both saw it. And Gia says, okay, you and Nick Hall were where? And he says, we were at my house. Okay, that we got to go through that part yet, but so is there, Andrea, is there anything we need to point out in this part here?
Nope, not that I'm. Not right off the top of my head. No, I mean.
Okay. Can you mark chat for a minute? I have to run to the ladies' room.
Well, sure.
Thank you.
It is
Maybe
the first
Mark,
I've heard
you
about
can
the.
explain.
Yeah.
Maybe you guys can talk about the park and where they were talking about.
So yeah, what he's saying in that deposition you guys read, he's talking about the concrete slab by the bend. That would be the first concrete slab on the north side of the shuffleboard court.
Which
Right
is
there
by
by
the
that first bend.
bathrooms.
No. The bathrooms are closer to the ballpark. That's a straightaway right there until you get down behind the hospital.
But the
there's
shuffleboard,
there is
court,
a slight, yeah, I know what curve you're talking about right there at the ball diamond, but there's no concrete slab right there. The only concrete slab down there behind the hospital would be a culvert, not a slab.
Okay,
concrete
so where the
frame
bathrooms are,
Yeah.
are, just off
On the
to
on
the
the south
northwest is the shuffleboard area.
On the south, yeah, the bathrooms are south of the shuffleboard. There's the concrete slab down by the creek. Down by the creek, there's a bend right there. There's a concrete slab down there at the time. That's the only concrete slab that was along that creek. But where in his other deposition, after he admitted lying in statements and this and that and the other, he says that they carried her clear down to where the ball diamond is and walked down by that. There used to be a tree right there and a path to go down. There was a drainage pipe. I imagine it was just a perimeter drain for the ball diamond coming out right there by that pipe, by that tree.
Yeah, because we have pictures of it.
Yeah, that's where he's saying that they put her in the water at in his second statements. The first one was talking about that first bend way down by where they supposedly killed her. So he was caught in hole. There's, like I said, there's holes all over this case.
Oh yeah, we know that. I've kind of given Marv my theory, and I'll tell you off the live.
Sure.
Of who I thought it could have been.
Like we've said, we know that there's tire tracks in the evidence that was collected. The tire tracks are right there by that concrete culvert, which is in between the hospital and the nursing home, right there at that bend. There's a bend right there.
Right.
That's where the tire tracks were, and that would make more sense if she went in the water right there, why she would be found clear down where she was on the 5th. Because the water flows north.
Right. Well, she was actually found on the 4th.
Right.
Yeah. Right. The 4th. The boys found her on the 4th, and they said it was a mannequin. But so in 2 days' time, I guess she could have floated that way.
It was fairly shallow water. I imagine the water was probably knee deep, if that.
If that. I don't think I've ever seen the water knee deep there.
Right.
It may be now, but not back then. Because as much as my boys played baseball, I was at that ball field almost every night back then.
Yeah. Sure.
And that's why I was telling Marv, you could see the rocks and the boulders in that creek. So it wasn't that deep.
Right.
So I don't see how she could have floated in just that little water.
And still being rigor mortis if she was. and still be in rigor mortis if she's putting the water on the second.
Right.
That's not possible.
Mm-mm.
No, that's what we were trying to figure out too.
I've
Rigor
been
mortis
told
leaves the
rigor
body after
mortis.
48 hours.
Rigor mortis is 12 hours in, 12 hours out, right?
No, rigor
No.
mortis is
And
12 hours in, 48 to 72 hours out.
I see.
Yeah, we looked that up. We were curious.
Oh, okay.
So we did
We've
a
been
little bit of
diving more than what you think.
we looked
Yeah.
we looked that up,
But with
and
the
we're looking
flow,
at different things.
with the flow of the water, she would have been down by the bridge. She would have been, well, actually, probably right across from the swimming pool. If she was put in the water where he's saying that she was put in, yeah, the first bend, she'd probably be under the bridge from the time they found her.
Depending on
But
how
if they
much
put
water
her,
was there.
well, you like I say, the water that I recall that was there, you know, she would have floated that far from the second to the fifth. But if they put her in the water on the second, right there by the ball diamond, she would have been down by the by the swimming pool. So the distance from where the concrete culvert is, and take into consideration there is a flow of the water, that it makes more sense to put her in if she was put in the water in between the hospital and the nursing home, that why she was found where she was,
Well,
because
but
of the
then they
flow of the
also
water.
say that her sweatshirt got hung up on a rock. I think that's in one of the positions.
Yeah. Well, actually, that hoodie sweat jacket has been proven to be Debbie Neff's. Not through law enforcement, but through mutual friends and whatnot.
Okay.
It was a Rhino brand.
All right, Andrew, let's keep reading a little bit here.
Okay, I said, make sure you don't get tagged up on that. You said, okay.
Yeah.
And I'm sure your attorney wants to tell you the same thing, because I'm not wanting to catch you all on a lie.
Uh-huh.
But I know more about that weapon than what you thought. I knew she... So now let's talk about the credibility of Kyle Neff and the murder weapon that was used.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead. Tell me what the first time you ever had a conversation with anybody about wanting a gun.
Derek Branham.
You approached Derek Branham, or...
I called him, asked him if he knew where I could get a gun. He mentioned something about handguns a while back.
Where did you call him? Or when did you call him?
I don't know the exact date.
Approximately? How long before the homicide took place?
I'm guessing 2 weeks to a month.
Okay, what did he tell you when you contacted him?
Hang on one second. Okay, he told me he'd get back in touch with me.
And did in fact then show up at your home with a handgun?
Yes.
Who was with him?
He was with, I don't remember the guy's name. He drives the truck.
If I said a name...
Inaudible. He used to work at Dwayne's.
Dwayne Frazier?
Dwayne, or is it Dwayne?
Is it a big guy?
Yeah, he's big.
Okay.
I think that might be who it is.
Did they come to your home?
Yes.
What time did they come to your home?
Nighttime.
All right. Who was there?
Nicole, Amanda, and I think there was more people there, but
Did they enter your home?
yes.
Come inside?
Yes, went upstairs.
What took place?
We went upstairs.
What took place?
I bought some pot off of him, and he showed me like 3 guns.
Who showed you the gun?
Brandon showed me a 22, a little one.
Describe it.
It was about that big and silver, approximately.
What about the grip?
I don't remember that much.
Do you know the difference between a revolver and an automatic?
A semi-automatic and a revolver,
Yes.
clip, and
Yes. Was it?
it was a clip.
It was an automatic weapon then?
Yeah, and a 9mm with a clip. It was all black, and that 38.
And the 38 that he showed you, describe it.
It was about that big, approximately. I don't know the exact size.
Would you describe it as a, do you know what an off-duty police gun is? An off-duty weapon is that the police officers carry?
No, I never.
You seen those on TV or anything?
No.
No?
I see 9mm and 38s.
Was it a revolver?
Yes.
Do you know what caliber?
38.
And what type of barrel did it have?
Short.
And what inaudible?
Silver.
And was that the same weapon that Elizabeth Balser was carrying in the park on the night that Tabitha was shot?
It was. It was similar. Yes. I don't know if that's the same one.
Well,
I don't know for a fact that they were the exact same weapon. I don't know.
but did it appear to be the same weapon?
Yes, it did.
Okay, did you see a transaction take place with that weapon that night?
No, I didn't.
What was Branham?
I didn't have enough money.
How much was Branham asking you for that weapon?
$100.
For any of the three?
No, for that one, it was $100.
Okay.
One was 150 and one was 75 or something like that, around there.
Was John Yates there?
No, he wasn't. He's never been to my residence.
Okay, Elizabeth wasn't there that night either?
No, she's never been to my house either.
So he left. So Branham left with those weapons that night then, correct?
Yes.
Branham had spoke to you after this homicide, is that correct?
Yes.
Because he had been confronted by myself and other detectives about.
He threatened my wife.
What did he threaten your wife? What did he say?
He asked me if my wife was snitching on him, saying that I sold the gun, and the way he said I took as a threat, and then I contacted you.
But didn't he also tell you to say that the only thing that he was out there was was the purpose to sell weed, not weapons? Is that correct?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
And you told me that. Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay, go ahead. I'll shut up again. We're just going to go straight down the list, okay? You're going to answer some of these questions again, and the only way we know, make sure we got the answers, and I discussed this with Stephanie outside while you were smoking a cigarette. Question for question, and there's probably 150 questions, okay?
Okay.
Some of them you've already answered. Some of them are going to be no. Some of them going to be yes. Some of them you're going to have to elaborate a little bit on, okay?
Okay.
All right. Whose gun was used as far as you know?
Liz Balsers.
Do you know what kind of gun it was?
38. Okay, that is a straight out lie.
Yeah.
Right there. Liz Balser's gun, huh? Okay.
How do you know it was a 38?
From seeing it and being told that, and more from the paperwork than I do from seeing it.
What paperwork?
That I got from,
So you don't really know for sure it's a 38.
it looked like
You suspect?
one.
Describe it to me.
It was silver and it was a revolver.
Did you ever see the grip?
It was short.
When you say short, do you mean short barrel?
Yes.
And did you see the grips or not? What colors were they?
I can't remember exactly what color it was, so I don't want.
Okay, so you don't really know.
Right.
Okay, do you know how the gun was acquired by Elizabeth?
It was in her pants.
Oh, Lord.
What kind of answer?
How was it acquired? How did she get it? Not how.
Oh, I don't know.
So if you don't know how she acquired it, you don't know when she would have acquired it.
Right.
We told you earlier that Aaron Sharp and Jennifer Bays
Yeah.
say that you were at their apartment looking for Derek Branham.
That's not true.
Okay, Aaron Sharp specifically says you were there with Elizabeth Balser.
Uh-uh.
Okay, is that true or not true?
Not true.
Have you ever been to that apartment?
Yes.
Who were you there with and when?
My wife.
So the only time you've ever been to that apartment that Sharp and Bays lived in.
That's the apartment over by Steve and Missy Stouts.
On the south end of town.
Yeah, I've been there.
Were you ever there with Elizabeth Balser?
No.
Who else were you there with besides your wife?
My wife and baby, I think, stayed in the car.
Okay.
I used to go over to Matt Brumfield's apartment right across the grass from there quite a bit.
How many times have you been to that apartment?
Matt's?
Did you say Matt's?
Yeah.
I didn't hear your cut out.
Oh, yeah, I did.
No, I'm
Go
talking
ahead.
about Aaron Sharp and Jennifer Babe.
I can only remember once, maybe twice.
And that was to talk to Derek about the gun?
To get pot. To get pot.
But you had also said that you had been there before.
I don't remember if I asked about the gun.
Okay.
There or on the phone.
Okay.
But I remember asking about a gun, yes, to tell you the truth.
Okay, all right.
I remember more him coming over with it than...
When one of the questions that we had was who else was present when you and Balser were there, we're going to take you at your word if you said you've never been there with Balser.
Correct.
But on the times that you have been there, was there ever anyone else there? Do you recall?
There was, when I went there, Dwayne Frazier was there. I can only remember going there once and Dwayne was there. A kid, like a young 2 or 3 year old baby, and a lady and a guy.
You don't know who that was?
No. And Branham.
Brandon was there the time you were there?
Yes.
And that was for the purpose of what?
Buying a 1/4 ounce of weed.
Let's talk about the gun that was used in the homicide. Who took it to the park?
Liz Balser.
You had said earlier you never saw that gun until she turned around. You think she struck Tabby with her fist, then she turns and she has the gun in her hands. That was...
Yes, I don't know whether she might have done it with the gun, but...
Okay, but up until that point, had you saw that weapon?
No, not till she turned.
And you had no conversation with Liz Balser about a weapon?
No.
On that night or any other night?
No, I haven't.
Do you know where the gun is?
No.
Lies. Where was the gun when you
Lies.
When was the gun when you last saw it?
In her pants, right there.
So at this point today, you have no knowledge as to where the whereabouts of that weapon?
No, I don't.
Or have had any conversations about that weapon?
Oh, hang on.
Yeah, you got to go to the next one. The next email.
Yeah, I accidentally closed it. Okay, so we're freaking out a little bit here because we know that everything being said right now in this statement is absolute lies.
Yep.
So in this first statement, we can tell you that Kyle Neff lied like crazy.
Hey, I'm going to mute a second because I got to take the dogs out.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
Okay. And I think, Mark, by us reading this, you can clearly see that the officers know who this gun belonged to. Oh, I lost Mark. Who the gun belonged to, who had access to it, and they're trying to get Kyle to be straight with them. And he's not doing it. He is lying like crazy when it comes to knowledge of this gun. Okay, I got the next set of pages up. So as soon as Andrea gets back, we'll keep going. But they're hammering him on details of this gun for a reason. And like I said, we know that the gun was taken from Kyle Neff's mother's house by Kyle and was given to Elizabeth Balser by Kyle. Ooh, you are really choppy, Mark. Uh-oh, I got a fly buzzing me. Okay, try saying something now. Are you there? You're frozen.
I'm back.
Okay. So in this part of the statement that we just read, Kyle is definitely trying to not put himself in possession of that gun. He's trying to blame it on everybody else. It's Elizabeth's. I talked to Branham about a gun, right? Could have been the same gun. It was similar, that type of thing. Oh, Janet, yes. Kyle and Andrew are red flags. Yes, definitely. Okay, so we left off with that on the times that you have been there, was there ever anyone else, do you recall? Kyle says there was, and he names a couple people, a kid, and a lady, and a guy.
Right. We were ready for page 32.
Yep, he doesn't know who that they were, and he says Branham was there.
Right.
Okay, and then they're talking about the gun. Where was the gun when you last saw it? In her pants right there. So at this point today, you have no knowledge as to the whereabouts of that weapon. No, I don't. Okay, let's pick up on page 32.
Or have had any conversations about that weapon
No,
with anyone.
no,
We discussed this briefly just for some clarification. Branham comes to your house a month or so prior to the homicide. Is that correct?
yes,
And you also talked about what? And you also talked about present was you, Nick, Frazier, Keith Frazier,
Dwayne,
or was it Dwayne?
Dwayne,
Okay, Amanda was also there.
yes,
Branham shows up with a gun, 3 guns actually.
yes,
And we talked about that. A 9mm, a 22, both semi-automatic weapons, and a 38 revolver.
yes,
And you also said that it was possible that the weapon that was used by Elizabeth Balser to shoot Tabitha Raines is the same weapon that Derek Branham had. You don't know that for positive.
I don't know that for a fact, but it's
It's possible it looked to be similar weapons.
similar weapons.
Okay, prior to her being killed, did you have any knowledge that was going to take place?
No, I didn't.
Was there ever any talk between you or Elizabeth Balser or Jonathan Yates, any conversation about killing Tabitha Raines? Did you ever have a conversation with anyone about killing Tabitha Raines?
No, not till after she was shot.
Right. But prior to the shooting, you had no knowledge?
No,
You hadn't discussed it with anyone?
no,
You know you had said earlier in your statements that you did admit it was you who got Tabitha Raines to the park.
yes,
Not physically got her there, but got her there by means of you're gonna
inaudible. Yes,
meet Elizabeth there, we're gonna party, we're gonna do whatever.
correct.
Okay, but you also knew that the reason for getting her there
Was to get her ass kicked.
was that her ass was gonna get kicked by Elizabeth Balser, correct?
Yes,
And who hatched that plan?
that was Liz's plan. Liz asked me to do it.
And that conversation took place in front of the utility office
Around the,
on Court Street by the courthouse.
yes,
Is that correct? You're on a motorcycle. She's in that big orange car, or whatever color you want to call it.
rust color.
Okay, so as far as you know, that was only there to get her butt whipped.
Yes,
The butt whipping was going to happen. You were going to get your cocaine for watching her back.
yes,
And you were going to go on your merry way.
as far as I know.
Correct?
Correct. I didn't know anything else was going to happen.
Let's talk about specific roles that took place.
Uh-huh.
Once you're there, okay? Other than the fact that I'm going to use the word lure, but you got her there.
Yes.
Okay. You got Tabitha there. You've admitted that, okay? Other than that, what role did you play in the death of Tabitha Raines?
I stopped Drew Bush from stopping Liz from beating her up.
And you did that how?
Pulled him back.
And so you physically put your hands on Drew Bush.
Yes.
Drew Bush is quite a bit bigger than you. Is that correct?
Yes, John helped me do that.
And he's quite a bit bigger than Jonathan Yates.
Yes.
So the two of you were able to control him or keep him from doing that. Did he resist and still try not still try to move forward, or did he just stop?
Yes.
And you say Yates's role was to hold Bush back.
Correct.
Also, to put a spin on your role, you helped carry the body
Carry the body.
and put it in the creek.
Correct.
Did Jonathan Yates help carry the body?
Yes.
Did he help put her in the creek?
No.
Okay. Did Jonathan receive an offer of cocaine
Yes.
for his specific participation as well?
Yes. Yes.
And who did he receive that from?
Liz.
Anyone else involved with either in the planning of what happened, actually being there, or having knowledge as to what was going to happen, as far as you know?
Not as far as I know.
Kyle, one of the things that I said to you earlier is that we're getting all kinds of scenarios and stories, and we've always had information that there's possibly a fourth person present.
There wasn't. All right, time out. I want you to pay attention closely to that question. Okay? This is really, really important. Kyle, one of the things that I said to you earlier was that we're getting all kinds of scenarios and stories, and we've always had information that there's possibly a fourth person present. Kyle says there wasn't. Okay, go ahead, Andrea.
There was no fourth person present.
Drew.
At the time she was murdered, there was 5 people present. Drew Bush, Tabitha Raines,
Yes.
Kyle Neff, Jonathan Yates, and Elizabeth Balser.
Correct.
To your knowledge, there was no one else in the park.
Not that I know of. I didn't see any other cars there.
Was there, a lot of times when you go around where the horseshoe, where the shuffleboard things at, there's all kinds of cars there.
There was none.
There was never any other cars in the park to your knowledge. No one drove through the park?
I didn't see anybody.
And this was about what time?
About 10:30ish, around there.
And knowing how that park works, and knowing that the city guys tend to run people out of the park sometimes around 11, because the park closes at 11.
Yeah.
To me, that would be abnormal for nobody else to be in the park. But if it's your story today, as far as you know,
I didn't see any.
no one else present.
I didn't see anybody.
You're not saying they weren't. You're just saying you didn't see them.
Correct.
Okay, we also talked to her about what led up to the death of Tabitha Raines. And I've got a series of questions that I'm going to ask you, and you've probably answered some of them.
Okay.
Okay. We've gotten information that Tabitha Raines might be gonna come to the police and give up some information on somebody. She was, other words, gonna snitch.
I don't.
Do you have any knowledge of that?
No, I don't.
Has she ever threatened you to blackmail you or anything, or to come forth with any information? What about Yates or Balser? Do you know that?
I don't know.
If there was information, Kyle, and this is one of those things that I, inaudible, earlier, that might be a little embarrassing, but we have to ask them, and they have to be asked.
That's fine.
There was a rumor mill out there that Tabby thought she might be pregnant again.
I don't know. I heard that rumor, yes.
Has she threatened you in any way or accused you of being the father of that child?
No, but we talked about me being the father of Drake.
Yes, that came up a long time and has always been in the picture, correct?
Yes.
And she wasn't threatening you on this day of October the 2nd that she might be pregnant again and that you was going to do something this time because...
No.
Okay, so you had nothing to do with this because of any threats of her towards you about being the father of either child. If she was, and come to find out she wasn't.
She never threatened me with Drake.
Okay.
I've always wanted to I still want to find out if he's mine or not.
Okay. Do you think he's yours?
Yeah.
You don't know that for a fact, as far as any type of test or anything.
I don't know that for a fact.
Do you know if Tabitha had ever ripped anybody off of any money or drugs? I mean, we've already been talking about she's been being accused of that.
I've been told that. I don't know. I've never seen it, but I've been told that she was selling fake mushrooms.
You've just been told that?
Yes, Nick Hall told me that.
Why? How's he know? Did he buy some?
I don't know.
In fact, isn't Nick Hall Tabitha's cousin?
Yes.
Has she ever insulted or disrespected any of you guys? And you know, obviously.
We've got into arguments before, but nothing.
Well, is it not true that you and Tabitha Raines had at least at some point in time had a sexual relationship?
Yes, we've had sex 3 times.
Okay, and indeed, there's nothing ever resolving. You guys, you weren't upset at her that day, or she hadn't said anything that you thought was an insult, or... As far as you know, did she ever insult or do anything to disrespect Yates or Balser?
I don't know.
As far as you know, she didn't.
No.
Okay. Isn't it true that one of the reasons that there was a falling out around Pork Festival time, early at Pork Festival time there in September,
I ripped her off.
you ripped her off, is that correct?
$25.
How?
She asked me to get those ANT pills, or I don't know exactly what it is, but Brandon would get it for us, and they're like a hallucinated drug.
What are they called?
ANTs or ENTs. I got it. He's getting it from a guy in Windfall and got busted. I don't know the exact name of them.
So Branham got them for you. Derek Branham did?
He got them for me, yes. And she got fired from working for my mom, and I got her the job. And the only other person that got a job was my wife, and I figured she got fired. I got her the job.
You kept her $25?
Yes.
Did she want that back?
Yep.
Was she mad because she wouldn't give it because you wouldn't give it back?
She started yelling at me on the phone. I just hung up on her, and when she called back, she's yelling at Amanda.
Did you ever give her the $25?
No.
Did she ever threaten to tell Amanda about the affair between you and her? Amanda was aware of the one.
She knew the threesome.
She knew the threesome deal, but she doesn't know about the times that you told me about. The other times. Is that correct?
Correct. The threesome was one of the 3 times I've had sex with her.
Right. You told me 3 times is what you told me, yes?
So
So
go ahead.
that's me. So you believe possibly that you are Drake's father?
Yes, I do.
You think there's a possibility that you are?
Yes.
And you and Tabitha ever talked about that?
Yes.
Okay.
We were afraid to try to take any tests or anything because of Mike.
Okay. Did you and her ever discuss, did you ever offer to pay any like child support or anything? Was that ever discussed?
If I was the father, I told her I would.
So you had discussed that?
Yes, I said I want partial custody. I'd want
Was there ever an attempt on your part to, in fact, if it was ever to be proven that you were Drake's father, okay, did you ever make an attempt or tell her you'd make an attempt not to pay child support?
uh-uh.
So you were willing to do that?
Yes.
Didn't you actually even talk to Buffy and advise Buffy that through Stephanie that you would be willing to check into following up on that?
I never mentioned anything to Stephanie, but
But you told me that you and Buffy that but what? But you told me that and Buffy that you were willing
yes.
to work through your attorney to see if you were the father of that child. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Didn't you tell me that one time?
I told Buffy that.
And I thought you told me the same thing when we took a ride that day.
I don't remember.
But you never did. You never did. You stated that if Drake was yours, that was willing to fulfill your obligations, is what you told me.
Correct.
Okay. Did Tabitha ever threaten to tell Amanda about anything between you and her?
Uh-uh.
I mean, you talked about the threesome. You say you had sex 3 times. She never threatened one time to tell her?
No, because she didn't want Mike to find out.
Pardon me?
She didn't want Mike to find out.
Okay, but no threat about Amanda.
No.
You had said earlier that Michael Raines, to your understanding, had no knowledge.
Correct.
And is that still your story? As far as you know, Michael Raines has no.
I don't know for a fact. I've got my suspicions, but
What are those suspicions?
he failed lie detector test.
How do you know that?
I got the results.
And that would make anybody suspicious. I'll give you that.
And Buffy.
Buffy told you that?
Yes.
How'd Buffy tell you that?
She told me when we were at my house one day.
Prior to you being arrested?
Inaudible.
All right.
She come over and party with us, and
And just told you that.
yes.
So Buffy doesn't know you're here today.
No, I haven't talked to her since I've been arrested. Couple days before I was arrested.
So you never gave Buffy any indication that you had any involvement.
Correct.
Because you had stated earlier that you never told anybody.
I didn't give anybody anything. All right, time out. Wow. Okay, guys. Andrea and I have talked before, and when you read this stuff yourself, things go right over your head. But as we're reading this out loud, there's things that are like just flaring out at me as we're reading through this again. Andrea, how about you?
First of all, do you honestly think Buffy gave him the results of
Do you
Michael's lie
think
detector?
Buffy really went and partied with him?
Partied with him? Exactly.
That, no. And do you really think Tabitha didn't threaten to tell Amanda? Just because she was afraid of Michael? Or didn't want
That
Michael
might be a
to
little
know?
iffy. That may be a little iffy.
True. So he admits that they had sex 3 times. One was a threesome that his wife knew about. And
Which
there
was
were
that
2 other times that nobody knew about.
that nobody. Okay,
That-
so hold up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So once was the threesome that took place at Buffy's house. Then there was the night that they were all 4 going to have a foursome. And Michael backed out and Amanda went to bed. And supposedly Tabitha crawled in bed. And Kyle asked Amanda if they could go ahead and do it. And she said, do whatever. So there's that night. So that's 2. So
But he specifically said there was 2 times she didn't know about.
right.
So there's more than 3 times there, Kyle.
It's more than 3 times there, which is I've said all along.
Yes.
And this whole and once we get into Michael's depositions, he says they were friends.
Right.
And no, he didn't believe they were having a relationship, or he didn't know of any threesomes, and it was okay for her to go on rides on his motorcycle because they were friends, and blah blah blah. So I think he had his suspicions.
Yes.
And I also think Amanda had her suspicions, which goes back to what I talked to you about the other night.
We'll get into that, yes, later. So at this time, Kyle says that he believes that he is Drake's father and that he would take care of Drake.
And wanted partial custody.
Right. But he wanted partial custody, right. And now, Mark, was there ever a paternity test done for Drake and Kyle Neff?
I don't think there was.
I don't think there was either. I don't think so either.
Because if you remember, in some of the other things that we have read that haven't been read on here yet, the night of the threesome is when Amanda got pregnant.
Right.
And Tabitha ended up pregnant shortly thereafter, so they both thought that they were pregnant by Kyle.
Correct. Oh my goodness. Okay. So then after that, then they're talking about the fact that they've had relations 3 times. Well, we know it's more than 3 times. Because we know twice happened with the 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then oh my goodness. Janet, you're right. They all need to be given a truth drug. Yes. Hey Mark, how you doing? So he said that he knew that he had suspicions because Michael lied on his polygraph, and he said that he was given them And
By Buffy.
By Buffy. And Buffy, when Buffy partied with them. Right?
That's what he
Did
said.
I get that right?
That's how I took it. Buffy told you that. Yes. How'd Buffy tell you that? She told me when we were at my house one day, prior to you being arrested, and it said inaudible. Okay, all right. She come over and party with us, and she just told you that? Yes.
That's crazy. Okay, and one of the other important parts of that section was he first asked Kyle about Tabitha having information and was going to bring that information to the police station.
Yeah, about were you afraid she was going to be a snitch?
Yeah. And he said he didn't know anything about that.
Right. So
Then they
what was she supposedly going to snitch about?
Right. So then they get into was Tabitha blackmailing you regarding your sexual relations and telling your wife?
Well, and I think it all stems back from that $25 that he stole from her.
Right.
So maybe she was going to go snitch about about the pills to the cops.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what he was talking about.
Yeah, because then he starts talking about these pills that Branham supposedly bought.
Yeah, from a guy in Windfall.
And then they're talking about this $25 that he took. But at the same time, I can understand Tabby being mad about him taking $25 because they weren't making a lot of money, her and Michael.
Right.
So every penny counted. So, all right. So we've made it through 41 pages. There's 147. But I will tell you 45. This. Huh?
We've made it through 45 pages. We're in the middle of the 45th page.
Oh. Oh, that's right. Okay, so we've made it through 44 and a half pages.
Right.
There's a total of 147 pages, but we are missing pages 108 through 147.
We're missing the last 40.
Right. So tomorrow night, we will come back.
Mark said no.
No what, Mark?
DNA test, probably.
Oh, okay. My cat's going nuts.
Mark, was Buffy ever known to party with Kyle?
Yeah, right. No, I'm thinking that's more of his lies.
Yeah, right.
So tomorrow night, we should be able to, if we go another 2 hours, we should be able to get through another 45 pages at least, if not more.
Right.
And then we should be able to
put us at 90.
Then we should be able to finish it up on Friday for this document.
Well, but if we go to 90, then we only have 17 more, 17 more pages to go.
Okay, so then we could actually start the next document. Finish this one on Friday and start the next one.
Right.
Because they just keep getting longer. So does anybody have any questions or any responses, statements on what they've heard so far tonight. And, oh, okay, Mark said his connection is unstable. That's okay. Major red flags, but not to LE. We know why. She had to have fought back. And we agree with that to a point because of the way her fists were formed in the autopsy photos. So Janet, when you're just getting a statement or taking a deposition, you are allowed to lead the witness because you are trying to get specific information and facts. Now, as soon as they walk in the courtroom, that's when all leading questions stop. But in a statement or deposition, they are allowed to ask leading questions to get the information that they need to get to pinpoint that person's answers. Does that make sense? But in court, they can't ask the leading questions. If they want to help impeach the person's testimony in court, that is when they can bring out these statements or documents and say, didn't I ask you blah, 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 and your answer was blah, 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 blah. That's how they get around that. But that is the reason why they are allowed to ask leading questions during the statement and depositions. Okay, so we answered that. Miracle Hearts. Well, Amanda knew something and was in fear of the consequences. She clearly had issues with Tabitha. She either had suspicions, admissions, or personal knowledge. This was a big issue. Exactly, Miracle Hearts. Keep thinking
Amanda made
that.
threats.
You are on the right path of kind of where we're going. Exactly.
Well, we know that Amanda made threats.
Yes.
Even one of the, either Stout or Frawley brought it up about the pork festival. So, to Kyle, if you're in that, what we just read. So,
right. Yeah, exactly. And we've got some other information that's come in that we'll talk to you all about once we get to Amanda's stuff.
Mark said, of course not. Probably, I'm assuming that's about the partying.
Right. Did the defense ever query the lies that were being told?
Apparently not.
See, okay. The only defense in this whole situation was Elizabeth Balser's attorney. He is the only one that got to go to court. Jonathan Yates' attorney wanted to go to court. He was gung-ho on showing what a crock of crap this was and to put the prosecutor in his place. But never got the chance because J. Rich dropped the charges against Jonathan Yates. So, without seeing the transcripts, the actual transcripts of the Balser trial, I don't know how much the defense went into attacking their lies. I know he did enough to get her acquitted.
Well, yeah, but that was because Jay Rich didn't have no damn evidence.
Right. The person that would have been the one to attack the lies and all that and bring all of that out would have been Jonathan Yates' attorney.
Which went nowhere.
Yes, this whole case stinks. So, yeah. All right. Come back tomorrow night for part 9, the continuation of Kyle Neff's statement. We'll see how much of that we can get through. A lot of these are shorter questions and shorter answers coming up.
Yeah, because we went through 3 pages like and nothing flat.
Yeah, so I'm assuming that we're going to be able to get through this quite fast.
Hey, did you the emails that we discussed the other day, did you get them to the right email and could you open them?
No, I did not get them to the right email.
Because I was told that they resent them.
Oh, okay. I will look. Make sure it didn't go to a different folder.
Or spam.
Yeah. So, yeah, thank you for those of you that are listening, watching here, chatting in the chat with us, asking questions. Tucker. I know that there's many more of you watching on Facebook and on YouTube. You just don't chat. That's fine. All I ask is that you click that like button. And if you want, leave us a comment. If you would like to get a hold of me for any reason, you can get a hold of me at truecrimewithmarv@gmail.com. I have been receiving emails, some to the old email box, some to this one. And I've been getting DMs on Facebook, so you can reach me all of those ways. I'll be more than happy to talk to you.
Well, it's good that people are finally starting to
They are.
Loosen their belts a little bit.
A little bit here, a little bit there. So, yeah. So we will see you tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central. And we will knock this one out if possible, since it looks like a lot of it is short questions, short answers.
Right.
Thank you once again for joining us. Have a good night, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.